She texted, break up. Your grades are too bad. Next second, I became National 1. My cheating ex froze. She texted me, let's break up. Your grades are too poor. 1 second later, I became number 1 in the country, and the girl who had cheated on me stood frozen on the spot. When Olivia sent that breakup text, I was sitting in the very last row of the school auditorium, on the big screen at the front. The countdown for the National High School Joint Assessment results was still running. 10, 9, 8. Her message popped up and covered half the countdown. Evan, let's break up. Your grades are too poor. I can't keep letting you drag me down. I stared at those 3 lines for a full 5 seconds. In the front row of the auditorium, Olivia was wearing her white school jacket. She was sitting beside Caleb. Caleb leaned down and said something to her. She smiled softly. It was the kind of smile I had not seen from her in a very long time. The countdown hit 0. The school's giant screen refreshed. The first name appeared. National Rank 1. Evan. 742 points. For a moment, the auditorium went dead silent. Then it exploded. As if someone had flipped a switch. People turned around to look at me. Someone shouted my name. Principal Mark gripped the microphone. And even his voice stopped for a second. Olivia turned back too. Her phone was still in her hand. The screen was still lit. The breakup text she had just sent was still sitting in the chat window. Her expression froze little by little. The smile disappeared from Caleb's face even fast. I did not stand up. I did not walk toward them. I only took a screenshot of that message. Then I locked my phone. Ryan, who was sitting beside me, lowered his voice and said, Bro, does this count as getting dumped and becoming a legend in the same minute? I looked at the score on the stage. There was no thrill in my throat. All I could think about was the past year. The nights I helped Olivia organize her mistakes. The times she said she could not sleep. And I gave her the last prediction paper to review first. The way she told me Caleb was better at planning for the future. So the future was never what she wanted. She wanted someone who looked like he would not lose. And 1 minute before the results came out, she believed that person was not me. Olivia and I had started dating during the summer after sophomore year. At the time, her math rank had dropped from the top 20 in the grade to 70th. She was sitting by the library window, staring at a solid geometry problem with obvious redness around her eyes. I pushed my draft paper toward her and drew the auxiliary line. When she understood it, she looked up and smiled. Evan, how is your brain even built? At that moment, I thought being seen was something simple. After that, she came to me with questions every day. Later, she said preparing for exams alone was too lonely, so I split my review plan into 2 copies, one for her, one for myself. I never thought of it as sacrifice, because back then, she would also bring me hot milk when I stayed up late doing papers. She would circle the errors in my English essays. When my stomach hurt, she would save me the seat by the cafeteria window. Then Caleb transferred to our school. He came from City Experimental High. His first monthly exam here placed him first in our grade. He knew exactly how to speak, humble in front of teachers, warm with classmates, especially patient with Olivia. I did not dislike him at first. What first felt wrong was what happened after the 3rd mock exam. I had a fever that day. During the math exam, my head hurt so badly that I could barely see the words. When the scores came out, I had fallen to rank 136. Olivia looked at the ranking list and stayed silent for a long time. I thought she was worried about my health. Instead, she asked, Have you been slacking off lately? I had a fever that day. She frowned and said, The exam doesn't restart just because you had a fever. She was not wrong, so I did not argue. I only folded the doctor's note and put it back in my school bag. From that day on, Olivia went to Caleb with questions more and more often. She said Caleb's thinking was better suited for exams. She said I liked taking the long way around too much. She said we had to be realistic. At the time, I thought she was only under too much pressure. Now I understood. She had already begun preparing reasons to leave me, 10 minutes after the results were announced. The auditorium still had not settled down. The host teacher tried to quiet everyone, but every pair of eyes kept moving between Caleb and me. Before the results came out, the school had planned for Caleb to speak on behalf of the graduating class. He had been the sprint star on the school bulletin board. Next to his photo were the words, Goal, National Top 10, and my most recent in-school result had been grade rank 136. The gap was too absurd. So absurd that many people's first reaction was not congratulations. It was doubt. Caleb was the first to stand. He did not accuse me directly. He only turned toward Grace, the academic affairs director. Teacher, could the system have refreshed incorrectly? Before Grace could speak, Olivia stood up with him. Her face was pale, but she forced herself to stay calm. Evan's scores have fluctuated a lot recently. Shouldn't the school verify it first? That sentence was like a needle, not heavy, but precise. She did not say I cheated. She only reminded everyone that I did not deserve the score. The auditorium quieted again. Ryan shot to his feet. Olivia, you dump him and then question his score. Panic flashed through Olivia's eyes. I'm only concerned about fairness. I raised a hand and stopped Ryan. Then I stood up. I did not look at Olivia. I looked at Grace. Teacher, we can apply for an on-site score review. I agreed to publicly verify my admission number. Scanned answer sheets. And score breakdown. Grace looked at me. She was responsible for grade-level exam data. She knew I had been participating in national online assessments since freshman year. She also knew every training record of mine was stored on the school cloud platform. She nodded. Yes. I added any more sentence. At the same time, I request preservation of my personal learning accounts, login records, and submission records for the past 3 months. Caleb's shoulders stiffened slightly. It was very brief. Brief enough that most people did not notice. But I did, because since yesterday, my cloud mistake notebook had been downloaded 3 times, and the download device had not been my computer. I was not a genius who suddenly awakened. I had not received some secret answer key on the final day, during senior year. The test papers I had done could have bent a bookshelf. I joined the National Joint Assessment because 2 years earlier, Grace had noticed my problem-solving habits. She said I should not stare only at INSCO rankings. My strength was not speed on familiar questions. It was breaking down unfamiliar ones. So she pulled me into the school's Voyage program. It was a public elite training program. Not missed. Rias. Not legendary. Just exhausting. 3 cross-province mock papers every week. 1 timed online assessment every month. Every submission left a timestamp, an IP address, draft scans, and correction records. Why did those records exist? Because the program had to prove to the school and parents that the training worked. Who kept them? Both the school cloud platform and the third-party assessment agency. How could I obtain them? I could only request access to my own account history. Grace, as the program lead, could request the full logs. What could the logs prove? They could not prove by themselves that I must be number 1 in the country, but they could prove my score had not come from nowhere. That was why I dared to request a review on the spot. 10 minutes later, the score breakdown was projected onto the screen in a conference room, not in the auditorium. Grace did not let the whole school watch like spectators. She brought me, Caleb, Olivia, homeroom teacher Mason, and Principal Mark into a small meeting room. Every step followed procedure. Admission number matched. Handwriting on the answer sheets matched. Subjective question scans matched. For the third part of the final math problem, I had combined a constructed function with sequence estimation. Mason looked at the screen and said quietly, "That's Evan's method." Caleb pressed his lips together. Olivia stared at the answer sheet as if she were staring at a stranger. At last, she spoke. "Why did you never tell me?" I found the question ridiculous. I had told her, when she complained that my solutions took detours, when she said Caleb was better suited for exams, when she photographed my mistake notebook and sent it to Caleb. She simply had not listened. The score review came back that afternoon. My score was correct. My national ranking was correct. The school website updated its announcement. But the matter did not end there. That evening, a screenshot appeared in the grade group chat. Someone anonymously posted a paragraph. A person ranked over 100 in the 3rd mock suddenly becomes national number 1. Does everyone really think that's normal? Attached beneath the text was a blurry photo. In the photo, I was standing near the library printing area with a stack of papers in my hand. The caption read, 1 week before the exam. Evan repeatedly printed unknown documents. The person who posted it was clever. They did not say I had stolen questions. They only placed suspicion on the table and let other people say the ugliest things for them. The comments flooded in quickly. Some said hiding ability like that Luke. D2 fake. Some said the school might be protecting me for the sake of results. Someone asked whether Olivia had known something in advance, which was why she broke up with me. Olivia called me. I did not answer. She switched to texting. Evan, I didn't post that online. I looked at the screen and did not reply. 2 minutes later, she sent another message. Can you explain first? I'm in a really embarrassing position too, I finally replied. You're embarrassed because I ranked first, not because you hurt me. The chat window showed that she was typing. Then it stayed that way for a long time. In the end, she sent only one sentence. Do you have to talk like that? I did not reply again. I went to the library. The printing area surveillance footage was not open to students, but I did not ask for surveillance. I found Nora, the library administrator. She was responsible for the printer back-end payments. I asked whether she could export the printing record linked to my campus card. Nora said yes, but only for my own account. I handed her my student ID. That week, I had indeed printed a lot of documents, but all of them were my own mistake summaries and answer sheet reviews. The system kept file names. It also kept upload times. More importantly, the download records for 3 of those files appeared under another account. The account name was Olivia. Olivia used to know my cloud drive password. I had not deliberately given it to her. Once, her phone had died, and she borrowed my computer to log in and access materials. I typed the password in front of her once. After that, I never changed it. That was, of course, my problem. Trust is not always evidence. Sometimes trust is simply opening a door and believing the other person will not take things without permission. But when a door stays open for too long, someone will eventually feel that everything inside can be taken. I did not jump to a conclusion in the library. I only downloaded the printing record. Then I went to the information center and submitted an account anomaly inquiry application. Victor, the staff member on duty, asked me to fill out a form. We can only check the login records for your own account. That's enough. The records showed that 3 days before the exam, my cloud drive account had been logged into twice on a public school computer. That computer was in the competition's self-study room. The login time was 9:47 p.m. At that time, I had been receiving info in the infirmary. The infirmary had a registration record. The school doctor, Lily, had prescribed fever medicine for me that night. Each piece of evidence by itself was not decisive. The printing record could only prove that files had been downloaded. The login record could only prove that my account had been accessed from a public computer. The infirmary record could only prove I was not present at the time, but together, they proved that someone had used my account to take materials while I was elsewhere. As for who it was, I still needed more direct evidence. I did not confront Olivia. A confrontation would only give her time to delete things. I did not explain myself in the group chat either. A group chat is not a courtroom. I organized the materials into a timeline and sent them to Grace. The subject L.I.N.E. had only one sentence. Statement regarding abnormal use of my learning account and anonymous accusations. After sending it, I removed Olivia's cloud drive access. Then I changed every password. At that moment, I did not feel like I was striking back. I was simply closing a door I should have closed long ago. The next morning, during early study, Olivia came to see me. She stood at the classroom door. Her eyes were a little swollen. Caleb was not with her. She placed a cup of hot soy milk on my desk. Your stomach isn't good. Those words would have softened me before. Now they felt unfamiliar. I pushed the soy milk back. If there's something to say, say it. Her hand froze in midair. Evan, let's not make this so ugly. I looked up at her. Who made it ugly first? She bit her lip. I admit the breakup text was inappropriate, but at the time, I really thought we weren't suitable anymore. You did so badly on the 3rd mock. And you didn't explain anything. I told you I had a fever. She lowered her voice. But Caleb said truly strong students don't get affected that badly by one fever. I looked at her. So you believed him? She did not answer. Silence is an answer. After a while, she said, can you not pursue the account issue for now? Why? Her voice became even lower. I did use your account that day, but I only wanted to see how far you had reviewed. I didn't send it to anyone. I did not speak immediately. She became anxious. Really? I only downloaded a few files. Later, Caleb asked me, and I only showed him a little. There it was. I picked up my phone. The recording interface was still running. Her face changed instantly. You recorded this. This is a public area of the classroom. I also reminded you at the beginning to say what you needed to say. The panic in her eyes turned into grievance. Now you're guarding against even me. I put the phone away. Olivia, you are no longer my girlfriend. You are someone who downloaded my materials without permission, after the third class that morning. Caleb blocked me in the stairwell. He did not smile the way he used to. You don't have to drag Olivia down with this. The materials were downloaded by her, whether you used them or not. You know that yourself. Caleb lowered his voice. Study materials are meant to be shared. Then why didn't you use your own account to request sharing? His eyes darkened. Evan. You got lucky once. The national assessment isn't the Gaokao. Don't think ranking first gives you the right to judge everyone. He spoke with restraint, but every word had a barb. I did not let him pull me into an argument. I only asked, did you make the anonymous post? He smiled. Do you have proof? I nodded. Not yet, so I won't accuse you casually. His smile stiffened. Maybe he had not expected that answer. I continued. But I will investigate. By procedure. Whatever I find is what counts. He stepped closer. You think the teachers will offend everyone for you? I looked at him. This isn't for me. It's for the authenticity of scores and recommendation qualifications. Caleb's face finally looked worse, because the recommendation qualification was his weak spot. Northview High only had 2 Starbridge program recommendation slots each year. One W. As based on national assessment ranking. The other was based on comprehensive evaluation. He had originally been certain to take first place in comprehensive evaluation. Olivia wanted to apply with him to the same university pre-admission camp, so she could not accept my sudden national first place. I suddenly understood something. She had not simply thought my grades were poor. She had been afraid she had backed the wrong person. And Caleb was even more afraid, because if unauthorized materials and anonymous defamation were confirmed, what he would lose was not just face. It was the recommendation. The school did not punish anyone immediately. Reality is not a television drama. It is not that I hand over one piece of evidence, and the bad guys get dragged away in the next second. Grace first forwarded the materials to the Academic Integrity Group. Mason told me not to respond in the group chat during this period. You are already standing in the wind. The more you say, the more mistakes they can twist. I nodded, but silence also came with a cost. In the cafeteria, people lowered their voices and said I was guilty. Someone spread screenshots of my third mock score everywhere. Others said Olivia had broken up early, which proved she had good judgment. Ryan was so angry he wanted to go argue. I stopped him. Don't argue for me. Help me record who is spreading the original image. Ryan froze. You're checking that too? I'm not checking character. I'm checking the chain of distribution. The anonymous post had first appeared in the grade group, but the source image showed compression marks. Victor said the platform could only release account information to the school or a lawyer. I did not have a lawyer. I also did not have the money to sue everyone, so what I could do was hand the existing evidence to the school and prepare my own fallback. I canceled access to every shared file. I exported the 127 pages of mistake indexes I had once made for Olivia. Every page carried a creation time and author watermark. I organized all the Voyage program training reports into a folder. I also wrote a situation statement for myself. Not a complaint, only time, place, evidence, and verifiable sources. By the time I finished, it was 2 a.m. My wrist was so sore I could barely lift it. Looking at the sky outside the window, I realized for the first time that becoming national #1 had not made anything easy. It had only pushed me into a brighter place. Bright enough for every malicious thing to have nowhere to hide. On the third day, the Academic Integrity Group held its first interview. In the meeting room sat Grace, Mason, Principal Mark, a student affairs advisor, and me. Olivia and Caleb were questioned separately. Grace asked me first, "Can you prove these materials were originally organized by you?" I opened my computer. There were 4 categories of evidence. The first category was original drafts. My paper drafts had been bound by date since the first semester of senior year. Each sheet had my habitual mark in the upper right corner. The second category was cloud version history. Every modification recorded the time, device, and edited content. The third category was assessment platform submissions. My mistake summaries corresponded one-to-one with the platform's question numbers. The fourth category was monthly review reports that Mason had annotated. Why did Mason keep them? Because the Voyage program required mentors to write monthly feedback. He had not saved them in order to testify for me today. He had simply followed the system. After reviewing everything, Grace asked the key question: if someone else saw these materials, Would that directly cause them to get a high score? No, materials are not answers. But they can let someone know my review direction and problem-solving framework. If that person then packages those materials as their own training results, it affects recommendation evaluation. Mark nodded. That was the core of the issue. It was not that Olivia had read a few pages of notes. It was that someone might have taken my long-term work and passed it off as proof of his own ability. Before the interview ended, Grace asked me to step out. When I walked out of the meeting room, I happened to see Olivia. She stood at the other end of the hallway. Her eyes were terribly red. When she saw me, the first thing she said was, "I really didn't know it would become this serious." I stopped. "You knew it wasn't yours." Her lips moved. She did not argue. Caleb's problem did not burst open suddenly. It began to crack from a personal statement. The Starbridge program required a learning growth portfolio. In Caleb's portfolio, there was a section explaining a review method for nonlinear recurrence problems. The moment Grace projected it, I recognized it. It was a summary I had written 3 months earlier on page 63 of my mistake index. He had not copied word for word. He was smart. He changed vocabulary. He changed the order. He added 2 sentences of his own reflections. Alone. It was not ironclad proof. But Mason pulled up the version history of my document. My original text had been created 97 days before Caleb submitted his portfolio. More troublesome for Caleb was that he had attached a handwritten review photo to the portfolio. In that photo, the edge of a sticky note was visible. The sticky note had a blue dot on the corner. Olivia used to like marking categories in my mistake notebook with that exact blue dot sticker. That also could not prove anything on its own, but combined with the cloud download records, public computer login records, and Olivia's recorded admission, the direction was already clear. Caleb still refused to admit anything. He said he and Olivia had merely discussed the materials together. He said similar study methods were normal. He said I had now ranked national first and wanted to settle accounts with everyone who had ever competed. Me. He did not lose control. That made him look more like a victim, until Victor sent the final record. At 9:53 p.m. The public computer in the competition self-study room had copied files from my cloud drive onto a USB drive. There was no camera on the public computer, but after the USB was inserted, the system recorded the device name. The device name was Caleb Drive. He had named it himself. The meeting room stayed silent for 10 full seconds. For the first time, Caleb's face went completely pale. The disciplinary results were not announced immediately. The school needed to submit a report to the assessment agency and the Starbridge program committee. Caleb's recommendation review was suspended. Olivia, for using and forwarding another person's study materials without permission, lost eligibility for the school's outstanding graduate selection that year. This was not a ruined life. It was not everyone kneeling down to apologize. It was simply the consequence of their own actions. Olivia came to see me on a Friday evening. The sports field was empty. She stood by the track, holding the lemon tea I used to like. "I thought you were only angry." "I did not take it." She lowered her head. "Whenever you got mad before, you always came back to me first. I thought this time would be the same, so that's why you dared to send that text." Her tears fell at once. "I was really scared then." "Caleb said your third mock dropped too badly, and the voyage program might not mean anything. He said that if I stayed tied to you, it would affect my application image. He said universities cared a lot about peer circles." I listened without interrupting. At last, she had spoken the real motive. It was not that she completely disliked me. It was that she wanted to win too much. She wanted a partner who looked stable, dazzling, and mistake-proof. She had not been willing to gamble on me while I was in a low point. "You can choose your own road," I said, "but you cannot take my things while complaining that I am blocking your way." She cried so hard she could not speak. I did not offer a tissue. In the past, whenever she cried, I would lower my head first. This time, I only looked at the sunset at the far end of the track. I finally understood what I had truly lost. It was not a girlfriend. It was the version of myself who believed sincerity would definitely be cherished. During the final month before the Gaokao, the school was quieter than ever. Caleb no longer appeared on the bulletin board. Olivia rarely came to see me. Her grades began to slide. Not because I deliberately retaliated, because she had relied too much on the routes I organized for her. Which types of questions to do first each day, how to stratify wrong question, which English essay templates should not be forced, how to secure basic points on the final 2 physics problems. I had handled all of that for her in advance. Only after I stopped did she realize she was not incapable of working hard. She was unaccustomed to judging for herself. One night after self-study, she stopped me at the stairwell. Her voice was soft. Evan, I did 3 sets of function problems today. I got them terribly wrong. I nodded. That's normal. You skipped the stage where you crash into the wall yourself. She smiled bitterly. Because you crashed into it for me. I did not answer that, she added. Now I understand. What you gave me before wasn't answers. It was time. It's good that you know. She looked at me. Can we really not go back? I did not answer immediately. I thought of the nights when she handed me hot milk. I thought of her sitting by the window, waiting for me to explain a problem. I also thought of the breakup text, and of her standing up to question my score. Finally, I said, going back requires both people to still be standing in the same place. I'm no longer there. Her eyes reddened. This time, she did not chase after me. Maybe she had finally begun to understand that not every mistake could be made up with a retake. On the day the Gaokao results were released, I did not go to school. I sat at home and checked my score on my own computer. 746. First in the province. First in the national raw score statistics. My phone was flooded with messages almost immediately. Ryan sent a string of exclamation marks. Mason sent one line. Settled. Grace sent only 2 words. Congratulations. I stared at the screen and felt unexpectedly calm. My national assessment rank could be doubted. One review could be called luck. But the Gaokao score was the final hammer. It did not clear my name in love. It only proved anything. I had walked to this point by no one's charity. That afternoon, the school held an online celebration meeting. When Principal Mark mentioned me, he did not tell a legendary story. He only said that Evan's training records were complete. His learning path was clear, and the improvement in his results was traceable. That sentence mattered more than any praise. It lifted me out of the rumors. Later that day, Olivia sent me a message. Congratulations. I replied with 2 words. Thank you. She sent another message. I scored 681. It was not a bad score, but it was not the best result she had once wanted. I did not comment. Then she sent one more line. If I hadn't sent that text that day, would we be different? I looked at it for a long time. Then I replied, yes. But that doesn't mean we would definitely have lasted, because the text was only the result, not the cause. She did not reply again. I knew she understood. What truly ended us was not one impulsive message. It was that she had, long ago, placed me in a position where I could be measured, replaced, and abandoned. The admission letter arrived in August. I was admitted to the School of Mathematics and Computational Science at Meridian University. Ryan got into another university in the same city. Olivia went to a decent finance university. Caleb repeated his senior year. I heard High's punishment did not appear in a public file, but his Starbridge program recommendation was cancelled. His parents went to school to make trouble several times. In the end, they received only a very formal explanation. The evidence came from system records, personal statements, material version history, and file device logs. None of those items was just one person's word. None of them could destroy him alone, but together, they were enough for him to bear responsibility. The day before leaving school, I went to the library to return my last book. Nora stopped me and handed me a document bag. These are the draft backups you once kept in the printing area. I found them while organizing the cabinet. I opened it and saw a stack of old drafts. On the first page, there was one sentence. The handwriting belonged to Olivia. Evan, keep going. Let's get ashore together. I stared at that line for a long time. It had not been fake, at least when Olivia wrote it. She had meant it. It was only later that sincerity lost to comparison, lost to anxiety, lost to what she believed was the safer choice. I did not tear the paper. I did not take it with me. I tucked it back into the drafts and handed it to Nora to handle. When I walked out of the library, sunset lay across the edge of the field. There were no unread messages on my phone. No one needed me to rush over and save them. I suddenly remembered that text again. Let's break up. Your grades are too poor. In that second, she thought she was throwing away someone who would hold her back. Later, she learned that what she had thrown away was the person most willing to walk forward with her. And I did not become number 1 in the country to make her regret it. I did it to prove that my life should not be assigned a seat by anyone else's gaze. From now on, wherever I sit will be decided by me. I thought that once the admission letter arrived, everything would be over. But the past is not a door. It does not stop making noise just because you close it. In early September, the school's official account published an interview. The title was, "Complete Records Are More Reliable Than Miracles." The article did not mention that I had been dumped. It did not mention Caleb or Olivia. It only wrote about my training process, my monthly assessment curve, every review after a low point, the medical record from the day I failed the THIRD mock, and Grace's explanation of so-called accidental high scores. After the article was posted, the comment section was finally no longer full of doubt. Some people said, so it was not a sudden comeback. Some said, the frightening part is that he had been doing the work all along. Others simply had not seen it. Others asked, if the records were this complete, why had anyone dared to question him at all? There was no answer to that question. Or rather, the answer was too simple. Many people do not believe effort has a trail. They prefer to believe in genius, luck, or cheating, because the first explanation reminds them that perhaps they simply did not persist. That evening, Principal Mark called me. He said Caleb's parents had come to school again. They demanded that the school remove the article's implied reference to the account anomaly. Even though the article named no one, anyone familiar with the incident could still understand. Mark asked whether I'm dead if the school made that section more conservative. I said yes. They could. I did not need an article to keep stepping on anyone. I only made one request. Don't delete the training records or the review process. That isn't for me. It's so that the next person who is doubted knows how to prove themselves. Mark was silent for a while. Then he said, Evan, you understand boundaries better than many adults. I looked at the admission letter on my desk. I thought of everything that had happened in the past half year. It was not that I was born understanding them. Someone had taught me through a very painful method. Olivia's apology letter came after the official article was revised. It was not just a few sentences of I'm sorry. It was a complete factual statement. She wrote clearly that she had used my account 3 days before the exam. She listed which files she had downloaded. She admitted she had shown part of the content to Caleb. She also stated that when she questioned my score in the auditorium, it had been based on wrong judgment and personal emotion. The final paragraph had clearly taken her a long time to write. I could tell. There were several traces of deletion and revision. She wrote that she used to believe choosing the person with more stable scores was being responsible or the future. Only later did she understand that she had treated people like report cards. She had treated companionship as a default resource. She had treated my low point as a reason to leave. After reading the letter, I did not reply immediately, because I knew what that letter meant. Once submitted to the school, it would enter the incident file. When she later applied for exchange programs, scholarships, or student leadership positions, she might be asked about it. It would not destroy her, but it would stop her from standing so cleanly in the position of a bystander. I called her. She picked up quickly, so quickly that it felt as if she had been waiting by the phone. Are you sure you want to submit it? I asked. Her voice was hoarse. I'm sure. Not for me to forgive you. The other end was quiet for a long time. Maybe before. But not now. I have to admit what I did. This was the first time she had not handed the answer to me. Then give it to Grace, I said. She answered softly. Before hanging up, she suddenly asked, Evan, do you still hate me now? I thought about it. I don't have that much strength left to hate you, but I don't want to like you again either. A very soft breath came from the other end. I understand. This time. She really did. Caleb's final counterattack came 1 week before the semester began. He did not post anonymously again. He directly submitted an appeal to the Starbridge Program Committee. His reasoning was clever. He said Olivia and I had once been in a relationship. He said the learning account, materials, and the stake notebook were the result of long-term joint preparation. He said he had merely accepted Olivia's sharing and did not know there was any dispute over permission. He said the school had sacrificed him, a transfer student, because of public opinion pressure. Every sentence avoided the most important points. He did not mention the USB drive. He did not mention the device name. He did not mention the similar content in his personal statement. He did not mention why. After my score was announced, he had guided others to suspect me of cheating. The committee asked the school to submit additional materials. Grace called me back to school. I sat in the meeting room and saw Caleb again. He looked thinner, but his eyes were still hard. He looked at me and said, You already got national number 1. Isn't that enough? I did not get angry. Scores are scores. Responsibility is responsibility. My ranking first does not make what you did disappear. He twitched the corner of his mouth. You just want to ruin me. I shook my head. When you transferred my files into your USB drive, I wasn't the one holding your hand. When you wrote my method into your personal statement, I wasn't the one typing for you. When you made people suspect I cheated, I wasn't the one who taught you to post. No one in the meeting room spoke. Grace eventually submitted 4 supplemental materials. Olivia's factual statement, the cloud drive version history, the public computer device log, the original review report I had submitted to Mason 3 HS earlier. These materials could not prove that Caleb had been malicious at every step, but they were enough to prove that he at least knew there was a problem with the origin of the materials, and that he continued using them and packaging them as his own work. The day his appeal was rejected, Caleb did not come find me again. I heard from Ryan that he changed repeat schools. I was not happy. I simply felt that something dragged on too long had finally been stamped by procedure. Before I left Northview High, Grace asked whether I would authorize the school to make a public version of my mistake notebook. I was a little surprised. She said many younger students wanted to read it, but the school would not simply take my original drafts. If I agreed, they could remove all personal marks and keep only the problem-type breakdowns and review methods. If I refused, that would be completely acceptable. I thought about it for one day. In the end, I agreed. Ryan did not understand when he found out. You were stolen from once, and you're still willing to make it public. Public and stolen are not the same. The first means I agreed. The second does not. After saying that, even I paused for a second. It turned out what I truly cared about had never been other people learning my methods. What I cared about was that they enjoyed what I gave while deciding that I did not deserve respect. The public version took 2 weeks to organize. I removed every note relate. D to Olivia. Removed the tiny words like, she tends to get this wrong, and remind her to review this tomorrow. By the end, I realized that my study materials had her shadow everywhere. I did not soften. I simply cleared those shadows out line by line. When I finished the last page, the document footer automatically generated the date. I looked at it and suddenly felt much lighter. Grace wrote one sentence in the preface to the public version. Study materials can be shared, but the person behind every piece of work must be respected. That night, I closed my computer. For the first time, I did not dream of the auditorium screen. I did not dream of that breakup text. I slept deeply, as if I had finally placed my own things back into my own hands. On university registration day, I met Olivia at the train station. She was pulling a silver suitcase. Caleb was not beside her, nor did she have the sharpness she once carried, the kind that always seemed in a hurry to prove herself. When she saw me, she froze for a second. Then she took half a step aside on her own. That half step surprised me. Before, Olivia liked standing in the middle of the road, not because she meant to dominate, because she was used to someone making way for her. I'm reporting to Southern City, she said. I nodded. That's good, she added. I made a review system myself over the summer. It's very hard to use, but at least I made it myself. Keep improving it slowly. She smiled faintly. You used to say review isn't about proving you were wrong. It's about making fewer mistakes next time. I had not expected her to remember. The announcement began calling passengers for ticket inspection. This time, she did not ask whether we could go back. She only took an envelope from her bag. This isn't an apology letter. The school already has that one. This is repayment for the competition books you lent me before. Converted into money. I opened it and glanced inside. There was a transfer receipt and a book list. The amount was not large, but every book was listed clearly. I accepted it, because this was an account, and accounts should be settled. When she saw me accept it, her eyes reddened slightly, but she did not cry. Evan, I hope from now on you always sit wherever you want to sit. You too, I said. The wind from the arriving train swept over us. She pulled her suitcase and walked the other way. This time, we did not hug. We did not look back. Some people are not so bad that they are not worth remembering. They are simply no longer suitable to walk beside you. During my first semester of university, I did not continue being a legend in other people's eyes. At Meridian University, there were many people smarter than me. Some had written papers at 15. Some had won international medals in high school. Some could glance at a problem and immediately point out where my derivation was taking the longest path. My former national #1 title quickly became one Lin. On an ordinary resume, that, strangely, made me feel at ease. I did not need to stand under the spotlight forever. I only needed to keep learning. In November, Grace sent me the download data for the public version of the mistake notebook. She said many lower grade students were using it. Some had even built their own versions based on my review template. Looking at the anonymous feedback, I felt a warmth I could not quite describe, not because they praised me, because those materials had finally gone where they should go, not as a tool for someone to dress themselves up, but as a signpost to help others take fewer wrong turns. That same day, Olivia sent me a holiday greeting. It was short. Good luck on midterms, I replied. You too. Our conversation stopped there. No ambiguity, no pulling, no one deliberately being cold. Like two people who had finally admitted the past was past. Ryan saw it and said I had matured to a frightening degree. I smiled. It was not really maturity. I had simply understood. At last. Not every relationship needs to be torn into hatred. Not every injury needs to be returned with a greater injury. Sometimes the most complete revenge is that you no longer hand your life over to the person who once looked down on you for scoring. 1 year later, Northview High invited me back to give a talk. I stood in the same auditorium. The same big screen was there. The darkest last row was still there. Only this time, I was standing on the stage. A student in the audience asked me what to do when you are denied by others because your grades are poor. I looked at that young face and thought for a long time. I did not say, you have to slap everyone's face hard. I did not say, once you succeed, they will all regret it. I said, first, confirm one thing. Are you truly weak? Or did you only lose in one particular result? If you are truly weak, then repair what is weak. If you only lost temporarily, then leave a record of your process. Don't let someone define your whole person with one moment. The auditorium became quiet. I continued, and don't exhaust all your strength hating one person just to prove yourself. The person you need to defeat is not your ex, not your classmate, and the people who look down on you. What you truly need to win back is the right to sign your own life. After the talk ended, I walked to the last row. The seat where I had once sat was still there. There was a very shallow scratch on the back of the chair. I reached out and touched it. My phone vibrated suddenly. A text had come from an unfamiliar number. There was only one sentence. Evan. Today I finally didn't copy anyone's review. And I still did well. The signature was Olivia. I looked at it for a few seconds, then I deleted the message. Not out of disgust. Not out of deliberate coldness. There are some stories where knowing the other person is not doing badly is already enough. I walked out of the auditorium. Sunlight fell across the field. Wind brushed past the bulletin board. A new score list was posted there. It had many names. Every one of them was waiting to be seen, and I no longer had to wait for anyone to turn back. I no longer had to prove that I deserved a seat in the front row. From that text message, to national #1, to leaving, to returning here, what I truly completed was not a comeback. It was learning, at last, to remove myself from other people's rankings. That night, back in my university dorm, Ryan sent me a photo. It was the new alumni wall at Northview High. My name was at the top. Below it, there was no mention of being dumped and rising again. No mention of an ex regretting it. Only one ordinary line. Evan, the person who keeps a record of the process will eventually be proven by the result. I stared at that line for a long time. If this had been a year ago, I might have felt it was not satisfying enough. I might have wanted everyone to know how practical Olivia had been, wanted everyone to know how low Caleb had been, wanted every person who once doubted me to stand up and apologize. But now, I suddenly felt that this was enough, because the truly important things had never been in their hands. Not Olivia's choice, not Caleb's jealousy, not the late applause of spectators. What mattered was that when I was at my ugliest, I did not hand away my own standards. I did not rush to prove I was worthy of love just because I had been dumped. I did not use a dirtier method to strike back just because I had been doubted. I only confirmed the facts step by step, saved the evidence, closed the permissions that should never have stayed open, took back the time I should no longer have kept giving. That does not sound fiery enough. It may even sound slow, but many of life's truly effective counterattacks were never about smashing someone with one punch. They are about finally refusing to let others take what belongs to you, finally refusing to let the sentence "you are not good enough" become the verdict inside your own heart. I saved the photo Ryan sent me. Then I opened my new course schedule. At 8 tomorrow morning. I had a very difficult mathematical analysis class. I would still fail to understand things, still calculate wrong, still stop for a long time in front of certain problems. But this time, I would no longer be afraid of one low score, because I knew scores could rise and fall, relationships could end, other people's gazes could change. What I could not lose was my own ability to keep moving forward. I turned off my phone, outside the dorm window. City lights came on one by one. I placed the draft paper I needed for tomorrow into my backpack. The first page was blank. Good. A new life should be written by my own hand.